Before the market opens, let's identify where the highest probability supply and demand zones are forming. By the end of this forecast, you'll know exactly which markets I'd be watching this week and which one I think offers the best opportunity. Let's get into it. So we saw some pretty crazy price action this past week. I actually got lucky. I was on vacation. I was not looking to take any trades, so I did avoid some losses, definitely. We saw some crazy moves in the market. The US dollar fell drastically here. On the daily time frame, I believe we have a temporary downward trend, but I'm not too worried about it because this overall daily trend line is still holding. It is actually pretty much just this weekly trend line. If you look at the weekly chart of the DXY, we have a nice upward trend line. I'm not too concerned about my bullish bias on the US dollar. Yes, we have seen an aggressive move down, but like I've been saying this entire time, we have that weekly trend line. As long as this trend line continues to hold, which I think it will, I believe we will be pushing up to the weekly supply at 103.06. So definitely some crazy moves this week, but ultimately I'm expecting the dollar to continue to go back up. Right now in the 4-hour chart, we are inside of a 4-hour zone, kind of too old of a zone for me. We are seeing a reaction off of it so far, but nothing really that, I'm saying, oh, we're definitely going to see a reaction off of that. However, if we do start to push up, we have a couple 4-hour supply zones here on the DXY. I believe we will see some small moves off of these zones. Ultimately, I think we will be breaking them, but I just feel like I need to be pointing these out because if you're bullish on the dollar, I believe we will most likely hesitate around these areas of supply before we continue to break out to the upside. And why do I think that? Well, again, the weekly time frame. We have a weekly trend line that is being respected, and I'm expecting price to continue to go up. Looking at the weekly time frame of the euro US dollar, just the inverse, we have that weekly downward trend line. I believe it will be respected to push down to the weekly demand down at 1.09. So I think, I actually think we still have a little bit more to go here on the euro as far as a move to the upside. We have a daily supply up at 115, very aggressive move up. People will most likely be chasing that momentum, and they're going to be chasing that momentum right into our daily supply that I believe we will see a reaction off of. So this daily supply will be a fantastic area to look for confirmation trades, and I will be personally doing that on an H1 time frame, guys. I'll be looking for H1 time frame shorts if we contact that area of supply on the daily time frame. As far as trading the euro US dollar goes right now, we have a couple of options. You can see we blasted through this demand here. Again, crazy price action. I've been telling the members, don't worry if you took some losses this week. It was crazy. I would have taken losses, but again, I was on vacation, wasn't really interested in trading, just looking to enjoy myself after a nice year. So we have a 1-hour trend line to the upside. We are very, very overextended right now. If we throw a channel tool on this trend line, you can see we're sitting way above the 50% mark, basically halfway between the 50% mark and the upper end of that channel. So if you are bullish on the euro, which I'm not super bullish, I think we could see another leg up. But if you're bullish, as long as this trend line's holding, you could look for longs on a 5-minute time frame. However, I'd be very aggressive with trade management due to the fact that we have a daily downward trend line on the euro, and we're about to contact that daily supply we were referring to earlier. On the 4-hour time frame, if you guys remember from last week's weekly Forex forecast, we were talking about this 4-hour supply. Nice little trade off of that zone. I thought we'd see a bigger move, honestly, but nice little trade off that zone. Nonetheless, when we broke that zone, it left us with a new 4-hour area of demand at 113. So if you are bullish on the euro, that is our demand zone for a long trade. And again, I'm not saying we're going to get a massive move off of the zone. I personally think it will only be a small move, something like this. So if you are going to trade at this 4-hour demand, either look for confirmation on a 15-minute time frame to basically maximize your risk to reward, or just be aggressive with trade management. Move your stop from down here to break even. Look to take profit as soon as possible, because that is our 4-hour area of demand for a potential long trade. All right, moving on to the forecast for gold on the daily time frame. Throwing a channel tool on this chart, we are coming back into the channel. However, so overextended, gold is really not that great to be trading this week, guys. I'll be honest with you guys. There's plenty of better trading opportunities in this forecast to come, so make sure you stay tuned for the rest of this forecast. We had a 4-hour downward trend line here. that broke pretty easily. Look at this sideways price action. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time here on gold, but just want to show you what bad price action looks like, this overall 4-hour sideways market. If we push up, if we break this proven area of 4-hour supply, all the people who've been following my forecast know we caught that 4-hour supply zone trade on gold. If we break this supply, any demand zone there is going to be a pretty strong zone because it's a proven area of supply, meaning we already got a trade off of it, meaning there was some supply there. So that's what I'd be waiting for. Another thing we could be watching out for is if we break this low, right now we don't have a trend, but if we break the low, we will have a trend line here, and then that will be our guide for day trading shorts here on the gold chart. Moving on to the forecast for the S&P 500 weekly time frame, beautiful weekly trend line to the upside. The big question is, are we going to be pulling back down to this trend line to react off of it, or will we be pushing up to the all-time highs again on the S&P 500? The daily time frame is really evident what's going on. You can see horrible sideways price action. Very difficult to be trading the S&P 500. I personally haven't really been trading it lately due to that horrible sideways price action. On the 4-hour time frame, we had another nice reaction off this 4-hour demand. I kind of expected it because this trade we caught from back here, this was a demand zone that we called out before it took place. Again, you can go back and watch my forecast, guys. You can see I was calling out the zone before it took place on my weekly Forex forecast. So hit that subscribe button to continue to watch these forecasts, and hit the like button if you appreciate them. Much, much appreciated. So another reaction off of our 4-hour area of demand here. I didn't really expect a massive move like that, but more importantly, we removed the 4-hour downward trend line. So as far as the 4-hour time frame goes, what we're looking for now is simply some sort of trend line here. That trend line will basically determine which direction we're most likely going to be going in, and I am expecting to see this price action on the S&P 500. So we're basically just waiting for some sort of trend line here, because right now I'm not seeing anything here on the S&P 500. We actually had a nice 1-hour supply zone trade right here. This one I was calling out before. This one I was calling out before. So just a great example of loser, winner, right? Winners and losers on this channel, guys. I'm just trying to be honest and transparent. I didn't expect to see that big of a move, and I don't even recommend looking for short trades with massive take profits on these indexes, guys. So right now we actually have, I didn't really realize this, we have a 1-hour trend line to the upside here. I'm going to adjust this trend line. This trend line can actually be our guide right now for longs on a 5-minute time frame. Like I said, I've been kind of on vacation, so I haven't really been looking at the charts too much, but I did notice this 1-hour trend line. So if you're bullish on the 5-minute time frame, this is our trend line guide for longs. I still prefer the potential trend line on the 4-hour time frame. I was saying that would be preferred for longs, but ultimately, horrible sideways price action on the S&P 500. I'd personally probably avoid this one right now, but again, nice 1-hour trend line to the upside. That's our guide for longs, but I'm really not seeing any new demand zones. On to the forecast for the USDJPY. Weekly trend line still being respected here. Obviously, insane move to the downside. What a weekly candle here. We don't see this too often, but overall, the weekly trend line is still being respected. Yes, we are peaking below. We will have to see some sort of close down here to really say if it's broken or not. Ultimately, I am expecting the trend line to hold. Definitely looking pretty weak here on the end, but at the end of the day, we will still have some trading opportunities on the 1-hour chart. So this is how I'd be framing my trading on the yen. Right now, if you're a day trader, 5-minute time frame shorts are good as long as this 1-hour trend line is being respected. What I mean by that is however you trade, whether it's chart patterns, indicators, whatever, supply and demand, watch this trend line. As long as it's holding, I'd be looking for shorts on a 5-minute time frame. You might notice this very nice 1-hour supply above at 162.60. If we break this trend line, if there's any demand zone here, first of all, it'd be a nice little long opportunity, especially with the weekly trend. If we push up to this supply, I think we could see a small move off of the zone. Why I think it's a small move, hold on one second. I will break it down on the 4-hour time frame. Just give me a second. 1-hour supply zone, it could be good for a quick short trade. I'm talking 1-to-1, very aggressive trade management. And the reason why is because just above on the 4-hour time frame, we have a 4-hour supply sitting at 163.41. I think we will see a little bit of a bigger move off of the zone. Again, we're bullish on the dollar. The weekly trend is up, so you don't want to look for a massive risk-to-reward trade-off here. You want to be aggressive with trade management. So the 4-hour supply zone is the better zone. If you want to pick one, I would definitely pick the 4-hour supply. But again, aggressive trade management off of both of those zones due to the fact that we are bullish on the US dollar. Moving on to the forecast for the GBPUSD. This is a really bad daily time frame. However, I want to show you guys what I think is setting up nicely. So we have created a very obvious peak and we have created a very obvious valley. The good thing about this, yes, it's sideways, so it's not ideal trading conditions. However, if we break to the upside, we will have a nice trend to the upside, which will be our guide to determine which direction is higher probability to be trading in. If we break down to the downside, we will have a trend line here. So I like how the daily is setting up. It's just not ideal trading conditions at this moment. However, we can still be trading the GBPUSD, and the way I would be framing it is I'd be looking at this 1-hour trend line to the upside, very similar to the Euro US dollar. As long as this trend line's holding, you could justify 5-minute time frame longs. If we break the trend line, any supply zone there is going to be a pretty nice shorting opportunity here on the GBPUSD. On the 4-hour time frame, we removed this 4-hour supply. This was another zone I was calling out. So again, I would have taken losses this week if I wasn't on vacation. So super lucky to just have this week off of trading. And again, that's kind of the reality. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. So that would have been a loss for me. Fortunately, it was not. That supply zone was removed. Again, crazy price action, very difficult to predict that. When we get crazy moves like this, a lot of times we don't see the zones work out. It's just the way it is. When we remove that supply, it left us with a nice little rally-based rally demand at 1.33. So if you're bullish on the pound, that is our demand zone for a long trade. Again, since we are bullish on the dollar, you don't want to be looking for a massive risk reward here. I think looking for a nice little 1-to-1, maybe a 2-to-1 trade. If we get a reaction like this, take your stop from down here, put it to break even, take 80% of the trade-off or 75% of the trade-off as we get to that 1-to-1, and maybe we can get lucky. Maybe we will get some sort of bigger move off the zone. You can just kind of keep bumping your stop loss up with price and turn a potential 1-to-1 into maybe like a 3-to-1 or something like that. So nice little 4-hour demand zone for a quick trade here on the GBPUSD. Alrighty, moving on to the forecast for the USDCAD. Remember, weekly demand was in control. We were getting a nice reaction off of it, but due to the fact that the US dollar declined very aggressively, we actually did come back and test this weekly zone. But ultimately, we are still bullish on the USDCAD. And another reaction off of our daily zone down here. If you've been following my forecast for a while, you guys know I was calling out that 4-hour demand zone trade right here. The zone did just barely break, but I was telling everybody wider stop losses needed here. And we got a beautiful trade off that 4-hour demand zone. And this is the way I was managing it. So pay attention here, guys. So basically, I got long at this 4-hour demand. I thought we could see a bigger move. Unfortunately, we didn't get as big of a move as I expected, but what I was doing was I was riding this trend line. I had my stop loss below this trend line here, and unfortunately, I was stopped out for a profit, right? I wanted a bigger move, but you can't always get a bigger move. That's just the way that the markets work. So as far as trading the USDCAD goes now, we have a 4-hour trend line to the downside. If you're bearish on the USDCAD, which again, if you're shorting the USDCAD right now, you're shorting right into a weekly demand and a daily demand. So if you are going to short, that's fine. You just have to understand we have to be aggressive with trade management. As long as this trend line's holding, you could look for shorts on a 15-minute chart. But again, aggressive trade management is definitely needed. As a swing trader, this is what I'll be waiting for. A break of this trend line. Any demand zone there is going to be our confirmation trade on a 4-hour time frame coming off of that weekly demand on the USDCAD. On the 1-hour chart, we were 2 for 2 on these zones here. This zone and this zone. 2 nice trades off of these zones. Both of these zones were called out in the daily market breakdown video, which is a forecast I do every day for the Diamond members. If you want to trade alongside myself and the members, join the Diamond membership, where you will have access to the 38-page supply and demand zone PDF, which will be your complete trading guide, the daily market breakdown videos, which are forecasts that I release every single night for the members to trade alongside myself, step-by-step video lessons A to Z, covering everything you need to know on supply and demand trading, the Sunday strategy Zoom session where members submit homework, and it's an interactive 1-hour call where we go over all of your homework and every trading related question, private access to myself inside of our private Discord group where I answer all of your trading related questions. And finally, the Sunday live stream forecast where we break down over 30 markets together. And it's not just me. Here are some of the members and some of their trades they've been taking lately. Absolutely killing it. And we also have some amazing reviews from some of the past members sharing their experience within the group. So if you're ready to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership today. Links in the description down below. So on the 1 hour time frame, how I'd be framing trading here, essentially we could wait for some sort of trend line to the upside. That will be our guide for 5-minute time frame longs, which is preferred because the weekly and the daily demand are in control. When we broke this 1 hour trend line, it left us with a nice 1 hour supply at 140. So if you're bearish on the USDCAD, that is our supply zone for a short trade. Again, aggressive trade management due to the higher time frame forces in play, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a small move off of that 1 hour area of supply on the USDCAD. On to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. We did see a nice reaction off of our support area here. I don't trade support. To me, this is just liquidity. However, we are seeing a nice move off of this support. The real demand is down below. That's where I think we will see somewhat of a bigger move here on the Aussie US dollar. Daily time frame doesn't really show much going on. There's really no information there. As far as framing the Aussie US dollar chart for trading, we kind of pushed down, almost wicked into this demand. It's kind of acting as liquidity now. I would like to see another reaction off of this support area, but that would really tell me there are stop losses under here, which is ideal for our 1 hour demand zone. I think we should be aggressive with trade management off of this zone. I'm talking 1-to-1 stops to break even as soon as possible. It's a great zone. I mean, it's a nice rally-based rally. I personally love the way that this zone looks. However, the reason I think we're only going to see a small move off of it, or maybe even break it, is because on the 4 hour time frame, one time frame bigger, we have a 4 hour demand zone sitting right down below that at 0.697. So it's very possible, the 1 hour zone's right here. It's very possible we wick below the 1 hour zone, hit the 4 hour zone, and then react. So I'd be somewhat aggressive with trade management off of that 4 hour zone, but nonetheless, it's a beautiful rally-based rally, amazing move away, single candle basing, my absolute favorite. On the 4 hour time frame as well, there's an older 4 hour supply zone over here, and what I like about it, well, first of all, the move away is pretty good. What I like about it is we're kind of basing out before it. So I'd like to see more reactions off this resistance here. And I think that supply zone is going to be a nice short trade. Again, it's kind of an older zone, so you should be somewhat aggressive with trade management. But that's our 4 hour supply zone for a short trade if you are bearish on the Aussie US dollar. Moving on to the forecast for the USD Swiss channel tool on this weekly trend line shows we are somewhat overextended. We are right at the 50% mark. So I think we could see this thing turn around, but it is possible we break below the 50% mark this next week here on the USD Swiss if we do continue to see US dollar weakness. As far as trading the USD Swiss goes right now, we have a couple of options. Our 1 hour trend line is drawn from here to here. This is a reaction off of this trend line, and it's still being respected. So actually, let me extend this trend line just a little bit, and as long as this trend line's holding, you could look for 5-minute time frame shorts. But again, you're trading against a higher time frame upward trend, so you want to be aggressive with trade management. If we break the 1 hour trend line to the downside, any demand zone there is going to be good for potentially nice risk to reward trade where you can be less aggressive with trade management. We remove this upward trend line with a nice supply above at 0.819. That's our supply zone for a quick short trade, aggressive trade management. Definitely needed off of a zone like that. Over on the 4 hour time frame, we have a couple of zones here. I'm only going to point out one for now because there's so many. That's our 4 hour demand zone for a long. It's an older zone, right? Created quite a while ago. We have a nice support trap over here, but I want to see that proven, right? I want to see a reaction off this support telling me there are retail stop losses here, and then that old zone becomes an even better trading situation. So if you're bullish, that is our demand zone on the USD Swiss for a long trade. Moving on to the forecast for the crude oil chart here. We called out that bottom perfectly on oil. Go back, confirm. That's the beautiful thing about forecasting is you can see the evidence. I cannot edit a video after it's posted. So I was calling out that bottom here. Nice move up. I was kind of calling out the potential top here on the daily time frame. As we push close to the daily downward trend, we started to see a push to the downside. So the big test will be this downward trend line on oil. If we break the trend line, Not looking great for oil as far as, gas prices go. But that's what I'll be watching to determine where oil could be headed. Really not much to go off of on the 4-hour time frame here. Oil has been up and down. It's been so crazy. However, on the 1-hour time frame, we do have a 1-hour trend line to the upside. If we throw a channel tool on it, we did peak below the 50% mark. We are sitting above the 50% mark now. So if you're bullish on crude oil, I'd wait for a peak below the 50% mark. Then we can continue to look for longs on a 5-minute time frame. If you are bearish on oil, we have a gap zone sitting above at 90.57. It's a pretty good 1-hour zone. I mean, it's getting kind of old, but it's not bad. That is our supply zone for a short trade if you think that daily downward trend line I was just talking about is going to continue to hold. Last but definitely not least, we are on to the Bitcoin forecast. We have a weekly downward trend line, daily sideways price action, but the weekly downward trend line definitely holds more weight than the daily sideways price action. As far as trading Bitcoin goes right now, I am really not seeing any new zones. However, we have a pretty nice 4-hour trend line to the downside. And if we throw a channel tool on that, look at that. We are sitting right at the bottom end of that channel. Not ideal for trading short right now. So if you're bearish on Bitcoin, we simply want to wait for a push above the 50% mark. As long as this trend line's holding anywhere in this area here, that's going to be the sweet spot for day trading short. If you are bullish on Bitcoin, the only thing I'd be doing is waiting for this trend line to be removed, and any demand zone there is going to be a nice trading opportunity for longs. If you guys want access to my full-length forecast, join the Diamond membership where you will have access to that, as well as my daily market forecast, the full course supply and demand PDF, and much, much more. Make sure you guys subscribe so you can catch next week's forecast as well, and I always appreciate a like. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.